गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री Gurave Namaha. We are in Panchadashi, chapter 12, Brahmananda Atmananda, verse number 32.
Yep.
And here, now there are some who continue to quote the scriptures and interpret them in their own way. The teacher gives some examples of such misinterpretations and exposes the fallacies underlying them. Why we should not interpret the scriptures in our own way? Why we should not? It's not a difficult question.
Because different people interpret different way.
Different people interpret different way. They are not man. Some of them are man written. What you are saying?
We do not have the in-depth understanding of
We do not have the depth of understanding in order to interpret them. We can interpret them, but there will be always some flaw. And therefore, we must follow the interpretation of those realized masters who have interpreted them without any biasness, without any attachment, without being a Hindu, Muslim, etc., etc., without being a Vaishnava or a Shaivite. They are doing, only such a person can do justice to the scriptures. He can bring the real meaning out of it. And why only a realized master? Because he has become one with that reality. He has that infinite vision. Even though functioning in the mortal world, but his vision, his mind has expanded to become one with that unifying principle. And that unifying principle is expressing through him to interpret that. And here if we try to bring our interpretation, oh, that was fantastic, oh, that was good, or that was not good, and slowly it will go to our head. And therefore, it is said that, remember, when we say we have faith, in what we should have faith, what are the four things we must have faith in? We must have faith in the scriptures, that is the Vedas. Second is we must have faith in the Lord. Third is, why Vedas? Because they tell you about the truth without any biasness, clearly. Why the Lord? Because as long as you are an individual, there is a God and we must invoke His blessings and grace. Which is not, and He knows that He is not other than reality. You think you have to reach the reality. He knows He is the reality. That is the difference between you and the Lord. Third, the words of the scriptures and the words of the Lord, who makes them meaningful to us? The Guru. So, therefore we must have faith in the Guru Maharaj also. And the fourth but not the least, in our own capacity and ability to understand the scriptures, to have the right interaction with the Lord, have the right faith, to invoke that faith and surrender and devotion towards the Lord, and to do what is required within us in order to, I would say, attract the right teacher into your life. You cannot go and decide he is my teacher or she is my teacher. teacher must come into your life, and that teacher is continuously coming into our life every moment. See, there are so many millions of teachers in the world. Why we get only that particular teacher and we sync and we resonate with that person? Why? And if there are certain people that you don't resonate with, yet you find that you want to be with that person. Why? See, when we were young students, we were not afraid, but we knew we could not mess with our Swamiji. On one hand, you see the whole world, in the today's world, who is a teacher who is only loving, 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 loving. That's what. If you scold them once, they go and find another teacher. That is the norm nowadays, isn't it? You look anywhere, they'll go and do. If 2 times you rub them the wrong way, the teacher does that to test you. And he's not doing it because he's decided that he's going to do it. It happens. But if you read the stories of other masters, even Shirdi Sai Baba Pothi, or how much washing machine treatment disciples had to go through. But today spirituality means only goody goody, nice fragrance, clean clothes, beautiful room, huggy huggy, kissy kissy. And the teacher should only speak in very soft, beautiful, and respectful words, so that the disciple feels that, they are taking you for a big long ride. That's all. They're taking you for a big long ride. A disciple is he who allows to be molded by the chisel and hammer of the teacher. Because he knows he is not perfect. He knows that he is essentially perfect, but in order to break away the imperfections within the personality, he must allow the chisel and hammer treatment under the student, under the teacher. See? Or if you don't want that, then you surrender to the Lord. That is, but there also chisel and hammer treatment will happen. The only difference there is that when that treatment happens, the devotee's mind is so intoxicated with the Lord that he is not aware that the chiseling is taking place. See? So we have to understand the scriptures as they are. And if people say that we are going to interpret it in our own, in my own way, in my own understanding, you are absolutely free to do that. And so many people do it also. But if you want to know the truth, we must sync our mind to the mind of the teacher who has written the commentary. And who is this person? Vidyaranya Swamiji is the realized person. Adi Shankaracharya is a realized person. Jnaneshwar Maharaj for Amrit Anubhav is a realized person. If we start, and they are not saying that you think you have to be like us. No, they are saying this is how the truth is. Take the point of view of the truth, and then if from that point of disposition, if the inspiration comes to write a commentary on the scriptures, so by all means, but come to that point first. So here the teacher is giving some examples of misinterpretations. Etyadibhistribhi pritau इत्यादिभिः स्त्रीभिः प्रीतौ सिद्धायामेवमात्मनि पुत्रभार्यादिशेषत्वम् आत्मनः केश्चिदीरितम् आत्मनः कैश्चिदीरितम् chidiritam. Thus, the love for the self, although having established it by the strength of the three, the scriptural authority, logic, and one's own experience, some people say that the self is helpful to the son, wife, etc., and therefore is dear. They still feel, they understand what the scriptures are saying. We have already, when you must have also understood it. Firstly, what were the praman that were given, the ways that was brought to our cognition, that everything we do is for the sake of the self by the scriptural authority. Then there was logic given, and then your own experience was brought forth through the verses, that this is how you interact with the world or with anyone. Why? Because you do, that interaction is for your own self. And yet, even after doing that, even after agreeing with the scriptures, what do people? They still feel that the love is because of the children, the love is because of the wife or husband, the love is because of something. They still, it has gone so deep into their psyche, into their subconscious, that they are unable to break that default process and accept that the love is their own essential nature. Okay? By these three methods of Shruti, Yukti and Anubhuti, it can be concluded that Atma alone is the point of love, for everything is dear only for the sake of the Atma, which is of the nature of love. Yet there are some who say that love for the Atma is secondary to the love for the son, wife, etc. And thus what is said about Atma alone being the dearest is not considered as true. They consider Atma to be a means of joy for the son, etc. Why? Because they believe that the world is real, they believe that the body is real, they believe that the relationships are real, they believe that the child who is born out of my womb, how can that person not be real? That is where it goes so deep into us. See? So, we must use the experiences of the world and the various objects and beings to come back to the self, like the logic was given. But here, how they misinterpret, they use exactly the opposite method. They use the Atma, whose nature is of the love. They say that is secondary, and the love for the children, for the life, for the family, for the husband, for the wife, for the grandchildren, that is more real. Who has seen Atma? I don't know. We will see when it happens. When I die, then that time I'll think about it. As if it will come, as if they will recognize that time. So for them, the love for the immediate relations is so intoxicating that they are unable to break that love and recognize that the love is the nature of the self alone, even after they have heard the logic. Continuing, this subject of primary love and secondary love is now taken up for analysis after quoting appropriate texts from the Upanishads. What is the primary love? The primary love is the nature of the self. What is the secondary love? When you attribute that love on something, that is secondary love. एतद् विवक्षया पुत्रे मोक्षात्मत्वं श्रुतिरितं मोक्षात्मत्वं श्रुतिरितं आत्मा वै पुत्रनामेति आत्मा वै पुत्रमनामेति तच्चोपनिषदि स्फुटं तच्चोपनिषदि स्फुटं. Desirous of making this point, they quote the scriptural statement, Atma is the Son alone. Indeed, they also refer to the statements of Aitreya Upanishad where the Son is considered primary. There, when it is said that the Atma is the Son alone, in what context it is being told? What is the previous verse saying? What is the next verse saying? What is that verse? Only one part of the verse you are taking and saying Atma is the Son is the Atma alone. For whom it was told Son is the Atma alone? For those people who are so attached to the Son that they consider that their life is nothing without the Son. For them it is that Mukhyatma. For them their own essential self has become the secondary self. So in that context it was told, but they take that verse and they start quoting. Continuing, soyam सोऽस्यायमात्मा पुण्येभ्यः सोऽस्यायमात्मा पुण्येभ्यः कर्मभ्यः प्रतिधीयते कर्मभ्यः प्रतिधीयते अथास्येतर आत्मायम् अथास्येतर आत्मायम् कृतकृत्य प्रमीयते कृतकृत्य प्रमीयते. On this of his father, the Son is the self. He is authorized to conduct all ritualistic deeds. Thereafter, this father, who is other than the Son, who is the real self, having fulfilled all his duties, dies away, and thus the Son is established as the principal self in Aitreya Upanishad. In this Aitreya Upanishad, it is distinctly stated that the Son is the Atma. Atma vai putra nama asi. How is this said? अस्या सह अयम आत्मा पुण्येभ्यः कर्मेभ्यः प्रतिधीयते. Of the father, the son is the Atma. That means when a father considers himself to be a father, an ignorant person, normally a person who is become a father, for him the son is the Atma. His whole heart and mind are stuck in that child. And therefore, in all religious and ritualistic undertakings, the Son alone is his representative. Why? Because at the time of death, who gives the fire to the dead body? It is the Son, isn't it? Then all his responsibilities get handed over to the Son. And then that before Father was the primary, the Son was the secondary. But after the death, the Son becomes the primary. And then that son's son will become the secondary, isn't it? So in this way, the handover keeps going on. Atha asya ayam itaraha atma. Therefore, for the father, Atma is the son who does everything in place of the father. This can be seen by the father himself, and little by little, the son becomes primary and the father becomes secondary. Initially, when the child is born, that son is secondary, the father is primary. But as the time goes by, as the child grows up, he starts taking all the responsibilities of the father, and towards the end of, as the father starts getting old, the son becomes the primary and the father becomes the secondary, because he is dependent on the child now, if he is. But at least after the death, he becomes the primary. Seeing his son doing so well and thus fulfilling all the expectations for which he had desired a son, the father hands over all his responsibilities to the son and dies in peace. Therefore, the son is primary meaning of Atma. When all actions, all thoughts are going into nurturing, here you can say it in this way, that आजकल तो we two and our one. Huh? Why? They want to pour all their love on one child that is there, that one kabutar. Before they used to want more sons, because who will do the plowing, who will do the the harvesting. They needed more people to earn some money so that the collective family could be maintained. And this is not only in India, everywhere in the world it was the same. Nowadays, because the what you call the standard of living has increased, the production of children has decreased. Yet the population is increasing. So here it is seen that the father spends all his energies to bring up the child correctly, properly, as well as he can, so that he can hand over the responsibility. And this is the meaning of the Mukhyatma. This is the in this context. It was told that the son is the Mukhyatma. No other context. More quotations are given to prove the same point. सत्यप्यात्मनि लोकोऽस्ति सत्यप्यात्मनि लोकोऽस्ति न पुत्र स्यात् एव हि न पुत्र स्यात् एव हि अनुशिष्टं पुत्रमेव अनुशिष्टं पुत्रमेव लोक्यमाहुर्मनीषिणः लोक्यमाहुर्मनीषिणः. Thus, because the son is the principal self, although the self is in the form of father is alive, there is no other world for the father without a son. This is well known in the scriptures. The knowers of the scriptures declare that a properly instructed son with the right mantras is the means for attainment of other worlds. So those who do not want to realize themselves, those who do not want to surrender to the Lord, for them, me and my family, all the eggs in one basket. What is that basket? The family basket. Diwali is coming. And there are many people here. They clearly tell me, Swamiji, we don't want to come to satsang. What will we achieve by coming to the satsang? We are happy with our children, we are happy with our grandchildren, and our house. When we also say the house should be like an ashram, we are happy in our house, in our ashram. This is our ashram. What is life without children and grandchildren? So their whole life is stuck in them. So they do the prayers for what purpose? So that their children and grandchildren can be better. All the merits that they are gaining through their rituals, and they are very, very ritualistic. They do a lot of japa, they do their meditation, do their sadhana. But everything is done. But what is the purpose? The children and the grandchildren. They understand everything also, but still they are unable to cut the cord from the children. Scriptures are not a hi-fi, unimaginable ideas that are presented to us. Whether it is Vedas, whether it is Puranas, every incident that is given, everything that is logic that is given in the Upanishads, etc., everything is a reflection of the observation of life. There is nothing outside the scriptures that this life can present you. Why only scriptures? They say everything that the life can ever present you is already given there in Mahabharata. All experience, all options, all possibilities are given in Mahabharata already. Just one of them. It's a historical text. So scriptures are reflecting only that which is observed in our daily life. They are not concocting anything. Therefore, because the son is the real Atma, the son is primary Atma for the father. Although the father is alive, it is said in the scriptures that that he who does not have a son does not go to heaven. Those were the old days. Nowadays it is different. Huh? But that was the belief system that time, that you must have a son. Even today there are so many communities where they want to have a son. If the girl is born, it is what do you call? It's a bad omen. But that is the foolishness. That is the ignorance that they are living in. Therefore, wise people say that instructions to the son should be the responsibility of the father. The father is the first teacher, he being the one to give Brahmopadesha and initiate the son into further studies. This is important because the son is the means through which the father will go to heaven. It naturally follows that the son is important and he is the Atma. Why this is said? See, we say Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, and Atiti Devo Bhava. This comes in the Taittiriya Upanishad. First is the mother. What does mother teach you when you are born? What does she teach you? How to love unconditionally. That is what she teaches. Because she is there at every beck and call of yours, isn't it? Then comes Pitru Devo Bhava. Second teacher is the father. When does father become the teacher? When the Janeu is given. We have a system. You guys wear Janeu? No, but you do in your.
Yeah.
You do. Huh? So when you get the Gayatri Mantra Upadesh, who gives the Gayatri Mantra Upadesh? The father gives the Gayatri Mantra Upadesh. From that day onwards, traditionally, the child used to go to the teacher to study from that day onwards. But if he doesn't go and he is there at home, but it is also that all that love which was showered on the child and he was allowed to do all the masti and run around carelessly. Now discipline must come into that child's life. It is the second birth, so to speak, of that child at age 7 years old. From that moment, he must be taught how to be responsible. He must be taught how to control his mind. He is taught how to take care of how he can prepare himself for the stages of life that are going to come as he grows up. And slowly, as his training continues, he becomes more primary and the father becomes the secondary. Not only is this so with reference to the other loka world, but with reference to this loka also. Manushya loko jayya syat, Manushya loko jayya syat, Putrenaivetarena no, Putrenaivetarena no, Mumurshur mantra yet putram, Mumurshun mantra yet putram, Tvam brahmetyadi mantrakaihi, Tvam brahmetyadi mantrakaihi. The world of mortals is attainable through the Son alone and not by any other means. A dying father should initiate his son by mantra like you are Brahman, etc. You are of the nature of the yajna and the nature of the world. But today's parents, what do they teach the children? How to make more money, how to collect more property, how to swindle money out of somewhere, how to invest in stock market, how to gamble and make, what are the shortcut ways of becoming successful. This has become a norm slowly. Nobody wants their children to be what you call a sabhya, a balanced person. नहीं, उनके पीछे चाबी लगाते रहेंगे, ये करो वो करो. Why? If the child is happy, no, how can you be happy? I have struggled for so many years to bring you up. Now you have to struggle to make my life easy. That is not the way. Because parents themselves don't know what is the purpose of life. There is the problem. We used to take the children's class. Parents come, Swamiji, please take. He's becoming uncontrollable. Please train him in the class. Can I bring him? I said yes, you can, but you also come to the classes. No, we are grown up now, but he needs the training. I go, what do you know? What do you know? You are 30, 35 years old and you know everything in life. And even we have grown so old, we still say there is so much more to know. See? So, such people, they want others to know, they want others to improve, but they themselves do not want to improve. When a father doesn't know that what is the goal of life, how can that father ever instill the right values in the child? The values do not come in the children because they go to classes. This is the wrong concept. Today in Melbourne you will see people are just taking their children every Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This class, swimming class, singing class, Bharatanatyam class, English class, science class. The child doesn't have any time for anything. Why? The parent doesn't want to take the responsibility of molding the child. He thinks the music teacher will keep her busy or him busy. The singing teacher will keep him busy. The swimming, chalo 2 घंटे अपने break, 1.5 hour break. This is the attitude. Yes, they want the child to learn swimming. That is not, I don't doubt that intention of theirs. But child learns maximum from where? From the parents. And he does not learn from parents because they keep telling him things. No, he is observing. It is a silent learning that is taking place. So what should be the instructions of you have read that book called In Quest of God? You have read, no? You have read? No. You have read? Did I send it to you? I think I sent it. Papa Ramdas. When he decided that I want to go and live at the mercy of the Lord, the moment he was about to take the first step across the threshold of his house early in the morning, the father came. He said, son, you have decided. See the greatness of that father. He says, son, you have decided to go. Very good. Let me initiate you in the right mantra, with the mantra, so that the Lord takes care of you. Keep chanting that mantra. And he tells him, Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. And here, if a child becomes a little bit spiritual, the parents are, oh my God, what happened here? Oh, Swamiji, I think this child is going in the wrong way. He's becoming lazy or she's becoming lazy. I think they're, what can we do? Can you have a chat with them? Well, if they are thinking of God, if they are thinking of the spirit, if they are thinking of the self, it's a good sign. Fan it. Having come into the world, one should have putra sukha, the joy of being a father to a son, the fulfillment of life in this world. That is this. What is this world? This world is the mortal world. Mrityuloka is only through the son and not by any other means such as wealth, etc. When on the deathbed, that is at the time of departure from the body, the father should instruct his son by the mantra such as, O son, you are Brahman, you are the reality, you are the yajna, you are the loka, etc. But normally when father is dying, what are they thinking of? They are thinking of their disease nowadays. They are dying in coma, or they are thinking about who will take care of my investments? They are thinking about, my son is so uncontrollable. After I go, I spend whole life making so much wealth, and my son is going to waste it all within 10 years. What will happen to my son after that? These are the type of thoughts. Or there is fear of death. Or there is fear of death in men who are dying. And if not fear of death, they are only thinking, because they have lived a selfish life throughout, oh, I wish I go to heaven, I hope I don't go to hell. Or there is some guilt because of the wrongs done in the life, or there is some anxiety of what is going to happen in the future. And in this way, these type of thoughts come after a lifetime of cultivation of mind. It doesn't happen just like that. Having cited the Upanishads to prove his point, the student continues to argue that the importance of the sun is stressed not only in the scriptures but in the worldly parlance also. So I am giving you from these arguments from the last two verses onwards. It is the student who is quoting all these scriptures to impress on the mind of the teacher that the scriptures are saying that the sun is the primary Atma. Even though I am giving you the opposite picture, okay? It is the student who is saying. Now he is quoting the other scriptures. What are they? Etyadi shrutaya prahuhu, etyadi shrutaya prahuhu, putra bharyadi sheshatam, putra bharyadi sheshatam, laukika api putrasya, laukika api putrasya, pradhanyamanumanvate, pradhanyamanumanvate. The aforesaid scriptural statements, etc., declare the father is helpful to the son, wife, etc., who are thus the primary self. Thus they accept the son, etc., to be the primary self. The student has come to this conclusion, and the worldly people also accept the son as the principal inheritor of the father till few years ago. Now the laws are changing. In this way, all the quotations from the Upanishads cited so far have concluded that the son, wife, etc. is the primary meaning of the Atma. Laukika api putrasya pradhanyam manvate. Not only that, even in worldly parlance, in the language of the common man, for all the worldly material things also, the son is definitely considered important. And concluding his argument, the student who is quoting all these scriptures, he says, Swasmin mrutepi putradihi, Swasmin mrutepi putradihi, Javid vittadina yadha, Javid vittanida yatha, Tathaiva yatnam kurute, Tathaiva yatnam kurute, Mokhya putra dayastataha, Mokhya putra dayastataha. Although approaching one's death, the father puts forward efforts for the likes of his son, etc., so that they may live happily through wealth. Therefore, son, etc., are the principal self. The parents think that I should not leave any debt on the children. The parents think that I should produce. One couple was here living with us. The father said the younger son was in America. The elder son studying here, working in a bank. He didn't want to do much. He studied in Adelaide University, and he got married, and they came to stay here for some time with us. And then one day his father said, "Son, he was in IT, are you coming back or not?" Why, Dad, what happened suddenly? No, you are there, your younger brother is in America, myself and my wife, we are here. What do I have this multi-crore business for? What I have got all this land for? What I have got all these farms for? Cashew farms. What am I going to do with it? I am getting old, I cannot handle it anymore. I am going to start selling and not be bothered because I cannot take the responsibility anymore. So you decide and let me know. So quick consultation was done between the two brothers and the and the wife, and this elder son resigned from his job and went back and took over his father's business and took over the properties and started taking care of everything. See? So, parents must not worry what will happen to the children after they go away. As long as they instill the right values in the children. What were the right values? You are the reality. You are the all-pervading principle. All the lokas are in you, my dear. You are the loka. You are the whole world. You have heard that word song? You are the world. What is how does it go? You remember the wording? A very famous one. For AIDS, they had sung that. All the singers all over the world, famous singers, had come together for charity event. That we are the world, not you are the world. We are the world. We are the children. We are the children of the lesser God. So these are the instructions that parents must give to the children, rather than worry about what food we are going to eat tomorrow, how many children are being born around, how many is the what you call. We don't want to leave any debt behind. All those thoughts are good, but they must not preoccupy your mind. In the old age, we must think about the reality ourselves and be an example to the children. And in this, but the student here, the student is saying, but this is not so, this is how I see, this is how the people think. They do everything for the children, and what do you call, which verse we were, here,
38.
38, So, and this is what is seen. Although he is going to die, the father is concerned that his son, wife, etc. should live comfortably after he is gone. There's because why this type of disposition is there of the parents? Because they have considered the children, the wife, etc. to be the primary self. That those parents, they have not even thought about the self, which is their essential nature. They think whole life is revolving around those people. Wife, etc. should live comfortably after he is gone. Therefore, he accumulates wealth, etc. for them. This goes to show that the son is important, and the son is the real meaning of Atma. Now, the teacher starts answering the doubts of the teacher. I have given you both angles at the moment. I have given you how the student is trying to impress on the mind of the teacher that the scriptures are quoting and saying that the child is the primary Atma. And to prove his point, because nothing, if it is just a lip service you are making to make a statement, it has got no value. So he's quoting the scriptures, he's quoting the observation of the world, and now the teacher answers. बाढ़मेतावतानात्मा बाढ़मेतावतानात्मा शेषो भवति कस्यचित् शेषो भवति कस्यचित् गौणमिथ्या मुख्यभेदैः गौणमिथ्या मुख्यभेदैः आत्मायं भवति त्रिधा आत्मायं भवति त्रिधा. He says, by simply being primarily useful for the son, etc., in the worldly dealings, Self cannot be considered merely a means of joy. The self is considered to be of three kinds, namely secondary, illusory, and primary. The student's conclusion was what? Primary or secondary. Teacher is making one more distinction as an answer, that the self is considered as primary or secondary self or illusory self. Now see how the teacher unfolds the whole thing. Beautiful. And the teacher does not say what you have said is wrong. A smart teacher, not a smart, but where he has to say, he will say, but here he is encouraging that the student is thinking, he has quoted also, but that it's in the wrong place at the wrong time and in the wrong context. Arjuna quoted the scriptures at the wrong place at the wrong time in the wrong context. Therefore, he had an identity crisis, isn't it? Everything that he said as his doubts to Krishna, they are absolutely valid. And therefore, there are many idiots who say that Krishna is the one who instigated Arjuna to fight the war. And therefore, they are angry with Krishna throughout their life. I've come across those people. See? And therefore, these people, they do not put this photograph in their house. Why? Krishna is instructing Arjuna to fight. ये जो photograph है ना Ram on the battlefield, they will not put that. Oh, how can you do that? Wherever this type of photograph is in the house, there only fight happens. This is their conclusion. Look at this foolishness. So the teacher says here, Badham. Badham means, yes, absolutely right, correct. What you say is absolutely correct. But only when one is talking about the relative world of father and son, this world and the other world, etc. With reference to all these, what is said is correct. So what you have quoted, my dear student, those statements are correct and they are valid only in the relative world. What is the relative world? Of the father and son. Wherever there is duality, there is relativity. Okay? Wherever there is relationship, there is relativity. Wherever there is coming and going, that is relativity. Wherever there is beginning and end, there is relativity. So he says that is only possible in the, what you have said is correct, but it is only possible in the relative world. However, on the strength of these observations alone, this relative existence is not comparable to the absolute truth. So if you are only taking cues from the relative world and trying to establish the truth, so you have made the relative world as the means and you are trying to say this is the primary self, means this is the truth. No, you are going in the wrong way. Because first thing, what is truth? Truth is that which is self-established, isn't it? Truth is that which is beyond, no means can reach it. For a correct understanding of the self, the Atman or the self is described from three standpoints. This is wonderful. This you can see in your own life, where you stand in these three standpoints. The first is Gauna, Gaunatma is the secondary meaning used in the relative existence. Mithyatma is the erroneous acceptance of the five koshas to be the self, and Mukhyatma is the absolute self. This Atman is referred to with the three different connotations: Gaunatma, Mithyatma and Mukhyatma. Mukhyatma is the essential self, which is self-existing, without any support, expressing through everything, as everything, self-knowing, self-effulgent, of the nature of Satchit Anand. Then what is Mithyatma is that, see, absolute self is I knowing itself. Mithyatma is I knowing itself through the conditioning of space, air, fire, water, earth. Those space, air, fire, water, earth have gone into making the gross body, the Annamaya Kosh, the breathing body, the Pranamaya Kosh, the Manomaya Kosha, and the Vijnanmaya Kosha. So the one who accepts himself as these koshas, who accepts himself as an conditioned entity, which we are all, isn't it? This is called as Mithyatma. This is called as the illusory self. And what is Gaunatma? Gaunatma is after having taken yourself to be the illusory self who is identified, self-identified with five koshas is called the Mithyatma. That Mithyatma then starts, one more degeneration takes place. So absolute self degenerate, coming one step down is called Mithyatma. Mithyatma coming one step further down. Then this individual starts thinking of himself as father, son, brother, etc., etc. This is the Gaunatma. So it's even worse. The whole is going deeper. And where are majority of the people living? Are they living at the Mukhyatma level? Are they living at the Mithyatma level? They are living at the Gaunatma level. Illusion within an illusion. Double illusion. First illusion is Mithyatma, Gaunatma is double illusion. Illusion within and that illusion. And that level majority of the people are living. So the first, see how beautiful the teacher has straight away everything that the student was talking about. Oh, father is important, son is important, Mukhyatma, Parma. Immediately, this is what is called clarity. Come to your correct identity. So when the student was talking about father and son, what level was it at? Gaunatma. At a level of double illusion. So he has not even considered the Mithyatma and he has not even considered the Mukhyatma. See? So we are all essentially Mukhyatma at a level of relativity, at the level of phenomena. We are considering ourselves to be an individual. But nobody lives, even if you come to that point, you will be a witness. But where do we live? We live at the level of Gaunatma. We are an employee, we are an employer, we are a brother, we are a friend, we are an achiever, we are an ambitious, we want to, something or the other hat we are always wearing.
Who lives in the Mithyatma?
You only, not you, we all. When the self accepts the conditioning of the five koshas, are you considering yourself to be a body at this moment? So you are a Mithyatma. But in that being a Mithyatma, right now what is your position? Are you just merely noticing that I am functioning through this body, or are you considering yourself to be a student in a class? If you consider yourself to be a student in a class, you are a Gaunatma. See? If you consider yourself to be a husband, you are a Gaunatma. If you consider yourself to be a teacher, you are a Gaunatma. If you consider yourself to be a father, you are a Gaunatma. If you consider yourself to be an employee, you are a Gaunatma. If you consider yourself to be a driver, you are a Gaunatma. If you consider yourself to be an owner, you are a Gaunatma. When you drop all these imaginary hats, personalities that you take, which express out of you, and recognize that you are essentially the one who is expressing through these five koshas, immediately witnessing will begin.
That's Mithyatma.
Then it will be from Mithyatma, when you drop all the roles, you will come to Mithyatma. The Jiva Bhav. And then there is a possibility you can fall back into being a witness of this five koshas. Gaunatma or secondary Atma is explained now. Each Gaunatma, Mukhyatma and Mithyatma, they will be explained one by one. He says, Devadattastu Simhoyam, Devadattastu Simhoyam, Ityaikyam Gaunametayoho, Ityaikyam Gaunametayoho, Bhedasya Bhasamanatvat, Bhedasya Bhasamanatvat, Putraderatmata tatha, Putraderatmata tatha. In a statement like Devadatta is a lion, the identity between Devadatta and the lion is secondary because the difference between the two is obvious. So also it is obvious that the status of the son to be the self is secondary. Idhar baith jao?
नहीं बैठना नहीं है खड़े
Okay. Is secondary. So here the teacher is saying that in the statement, this Devadatta is a lion. Now this Devadatta is a very unique character which is used in lot of scriptures in the Vedas. Whenever some foolish fellow has to be mentioned, some ignorant fellow has to be mentioned, some confused fellow has to be mentioned, some idiot has to be mentioned, the word is Devadatta. Huh? Remember in one of the chapters it came that 10 persons crossed the river and then they were looking and the Devadatta, there also the Devadatta. The last Devadatta started counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and they said, "Arey, yaar, we are only 9, I think one of them has drowned." Then again the second Devadatta, again 9, again, till one teacher comes by. Remember that chapter? So that teacher came, he says, "Why are you all crying?" They said, oh, I think one of us has drowned in the river. He says, "How many were you?" He says, 10. "And how many are you now?" 9. All of them said, "We are 9. All foolish fellows. All Devadattas. So the teacher looks at everyone and smiles. When Arjuna was confused, Krishna smiled. Here Devadattas are confused. The passing guru, he smiled. "Why are you smiling, teacher?" "No, nobody is lost."
You are the tenth.
Then where is the 10th one? He says, "You are the 10th one." "Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, I am the 10th one." Smile. When the instruction was given to one, all the other 9, they were making the same mistake. It also clicked to them, isn't it? Our problem, the student's problem in this, what he quoted in the 8 verses before was, he is only looking at the outside world, he is not looking at the self within. Therefore his insistence that the father and the son, and in that son is the Mukhyatma or the father is the primary self. So here another example is taken. Devadatta is a lion. Devadatta and lion is only figurative. It is not meant literally. The difference between the two is obvious to everyone. In the same way, when a father says he is doing everything for his son because his son is his Atma, it is only a figure of speech to indicate how much joy the son gives him. So what is being referred to the secondary characteristic, namely the guna, therefore it is called Gaunatma. That the son is the Atma is only a relative qualitative reference. It is not literally meant. See? So when they are saying Devadatta is a lion, Devadatta has not become lion. The quality of lion, he is lion-like, isn't it? That is being told. So similarly, now they're comparing that statement to what statement the student had quoted, that the father, for the father, the son is the Atma. So here again he is saying that the son is the Atma is to be taken only figuratively. It does not mean, just like Devadatta has not become lion, similarly the son has not become the Atma for the father. Atma has to be expressing from within. How can the Atma be outside and the body be here? So understand in this way. Now the second type of Atma, the Mithyatma, is taken up for explanation. भेदोऽस्ति पञ्चकोशेषु भेदोऽस्ति पञ्चकोशेषु साक्षिणो न तु भात्यसौ साक्षिणो न तु भात्यसौ मिथ्यात्मतात कोशानां मिथ्यात्मतात कोशानां स्थाणोश्चौरात्मता यथा स्थाणोश्चौरात्मता यथा. The witness is certainly different from the five koshas. However, this difference is not experienced. Therefore, the status of the koshas to be Atma is an illusion. In other words, the koshas are illusory Atma, just as the perception of the post as a thief is an illusion. This is what I was telling you. If we can drop all the roles or all the hats that we wear, and even come to the Panchakoshas and come to recognize who is expressing through these Panchakoshas. What is the difference between a dead man and a living man? What are these conditionings? What is that which makes the five sheets come alive? What is that which leaves or the five koshas stop supporting the expression of that? What is that? If your attention is on that, then coming to Mithyatma, you will come to recognize that you are the witness of the five sheets. But if you are not coming to be the witness, there is only another option. Only one option left. And what is the other option? You will consider yourself to be the five sheets. So you consider yourself to be the gross body. You consider yourself to be a breathing person. Without breath, I will die. You consider yourself to be a feeling and a thinking person. And as long as you are identified with these four, and if someone says, hey, you stupid fool, and you say, how dare you say that to me? What are you identified with? You are identified with the idea that you are intelligent. Isn't it? You have got no heart. You are a very spiteful person. Just like that, someone says that to you. You have got no compassion towards anything. No, I am not like. No, you are like that. And if it hurts you, someone says like that, then you are identified with the Manomaya Kosh, mental sheath. If you are hungry and thirsty and that disturbs you, you are identified with the breath. And if pain and health is your is your norm in your daily life, then we are identified with the gross body. See, these are the various expressions. Understand them. Only thing is understanding. That's all. You don't have to practice. Once you become convinced that and with the right understanding, it will start expressing in your life. So here the teacher is telling, what is this Mithyatma? He says that the Sakshi, that is the witness, is definitely other than the five koshas. What are the five koshas? The Annamaya Kosh, Pranmaya Kosh, Manomaya Kosh, Vijnanmaya Kosh and Anandamaya Kosh. The gross body, the vital air body, the mental body, the intellectual body and the causal body. And the self is other than these three. There are many different ways of putting this. These five sheaths can be put as gross body, subtle body, causal body. Gross body is the waking state, subtle body is the dream state, causal body is the deep sleep state. The self is other than these three. The witness is other than these three, or is other than the five, whichever way you put it. But it is not perceived as being different. Atah koshanam atmata mithya. As a result of not understanding the separateness of the Kutastha Chaitanya from the five koshas, the I-ness of the Atma is superimposed on the koshas. Because we have not become convinced, because we are not ready to see the facts of our life, we are not ready to see and cognize the fact that all logic is saying that you are not the body. All logic and experience is telling you you are not the five koshas. Because if you are, then how can you know them? The knower has to be other than the known. That is the rule. And you are other than the known. The five sheaths are known. The three waker, dreamer and deep sleeper, they are known. The gross body, subtle body, causal body is known. Otherwise, how can you talk about it? How can you experience it in your daily life? But we appreciate that, but then we fall back into the identification. When we read it somewhere, when we listen to it in a class like this, we are able to appreciate that point, but not deeply enough to change our conviction. It is still only information gathering. It is not making a deep impact. This superimposition is mithya, it is not real. The gross body, the five koshas, they are a product of matter. And the I, is it matter? No, it is consciousness. That which is of the nature of consciousness, that which is of the nature of Satchitanand, that which is of the nature of self-effulgence, self-knowledge, self-bliss, of the nature of love. And what is matter? Can matter come to know itself? Can matter know itself? The consciousness is continuous. Is matter continuous? It has a beginning and end. How can these two diametrically opposite qualities come together? Is it possible? Is their identification possible? Not possible. Yet it is seen. Yet it is seen. So we have unknowingly, under the influence of ignorance, under the foolishness, and under the spell of self-forgetfulness, who are we? We all call ourselves I, isn't it? I is of the nature of consciousness. This I we have taken to be, we have superimposed it, we have started thinking that this I is the body, breath, mind, intellect, etc. This union is not possible under any sets of circumstances. Yet it is seen. Can you drink the mirage waters? You see the mirage waters, you feel the way, you see the waves. They are born, the mirage is born under specific conditions, isn't it? You see the water, you see the waves coming and going also. But you cannot drink the waters, isn't it? You see the rainbow, it appears under specific conditions. But you cannot keep this rainbow there permanently. You see the sunrise and sunset, it appears under specific conditions, but you cannot keep the sunset and sunrise permanently there, isn't it? The sun has never risen, the sun has never set. Exactly the same way. Somehow, somewhere, because of our ignorance, because of our self-forgetfulness, this mithyatma means what? This consciousness that I am, I have forgotten who I really am, and I started taking myself to be this conditioning of body, breath, mind, intellect. And that has become my primary expression. Everything in my life is determined by this me identifying with this body. Body, breath, mind, intellect. Majority people are only at the body level. Some people are at the breath level. Some people, very few people are at the mind and intellect level. Very few people in the whole creation. Very few people. Majority are at the body level. This superimposition is mithya. This superimposition of the five koshas on the self, meaning this self accepting the conditioning of these five sheaths, is the mithya, is the illusion. It is not real. Yatha sthano chaturatmata. Just as in darkness, here example is taken, just as in the darkness or early in the morning on a misty day or a misty morning or a misty night, you see from far away, you see a ghost. You see a ghost on the street. And when you come closer and closer, from far away you saw it had the body, it had the arms, it had the face, everything. But as you come closer and closer, you are shivering, your hair on your neck are standing on ends. But as you come closer to that ghost, because there is no other way for you to go. And wherever you are going, he is watching you. But when you come little bit close, you realize actually there was only a post. From far away, you look at an ornament. But actually, when you study the scriptures, you realize it is actually gold. From far away, or close by, you see it is a wave. But actually it is a water. Out of ignorance, you feel that you have stepped on a snake. But actually it is a rope. Out of ignorance, we consider ourselves to be the body, breath, mind, intellect, but actually we are the witness. Actually we are the consciousness. This is the I. This finger represents the I. This is the witness of the three koshas. Manomaya, Annamaya kosh, the gross body, the subtle body, and the causal body. When this fellow identifies with them, he is called an individual. If through studies of scriptures, little bit of sadhana, he comes to calm his mind, he will see that he is the witness of these three. And when this fellow stops giving attention to these three and starts thinking, who am I? Who am I? What is my nature? I want to know myself. A realization takes place. Therefore the Chinmudra. The image of a thief is thus superimposed on the pose. The thief is mithya in the same way, considering the panch koshas, the five sheaths, to be Atma, is equally unreal. Now, what is the Mukhyatma then? What is this primary Atma? This absolute self? Then what is the real meaning of Atma? The meaning of Mukhyatma is given in the following verse. It says, Nabhati bhedo napyasti, Nabhati bhedo napyasti, Sakshino pratiyoginaha, Sakshino pratiyoginaha, Sarvantaratva tasyaiva, Sarvantaratva tasyaiva, Mukhyamaatmatvamishyate, Mukhyamaatmatvamishyate. Now, if we have to think anytime. Think about this all the time. This is your true identity. The whole Bhagavad Gita is to bring to the true identity of to Arjuna. Who is he really? The witnessing self is one without a second and therefore does not contradict anyone, nor is there is any negation of anything by the self. This self being the substratum of all is considered as the primary self. So what is this primary self? In which there is no duality or dualism. What is the other quality? That it is all inclusive. Why it is all inclusive? Because it is alone expressing as everything. How can you give us an example? Yes, the water alone is expressing through all the waves. It includes all the waves in its definition of I. The gold is expressing through all the ornaments. In the gold, all the ornaments are. Similarly, in you as an individual self, the individual I, the Mithyatma, in Mithyatma alone is expressing through all the Gaunatmas, isn't it? Through the father, you as the father, you as the son, you as the brother, you as the employee, you as the owner, you as the driver. Mithyatma alone is expressing through all those. See? Exactly the same way. This Mukhyatma alone is expressing in and through everything. In and through everything. Is the father other than the self? No. I am the father. I am the brother. I am the son. You say. But Mukhyatma does not need to say anything because it is the one without a second principle. Now let's see what Swamiji says. He says, in case of Gaunatma, something is required for comparison. So in case of Gaunatma, you can be called a father only if there is a son. If you don't have a son, you cannot call yourself a father. Oh, but Mahatma Gandhi called himself, people called him father of nation. Yes, he had the whole nation, 250 million people, whom he considered children. If they were not there, who will call him father of nation? Father of emptiness then. So, for Gaunatma, something is required for comparison. You cannot have that expression without the other. In case of Mithyatma, there was a necessity of superimposition. So, what is the superimposition? The 5 sheets were superimposed on the self. Not self is not superimposed on the 5 sheets. The 5 sheets are superimposed on the self. And because of that superimposition, because of that acceptance, you call yourself, I am the body. So even though you are consciousness, but you are saying I am the body, then what is how can you correct it? This is the Mithyatma. In the case of Mithyatma or the real Atma, there is no frame of reference. In case of the real self, there is no means, there is no praman, there is no inference, there is no reference, frame of reference possible. Why there is no reference possible? Because it is self-existing. It is self-illuminating. No words can illuminate the Mukhyatma. No experience can make you come to know Mukhyatma. Because experience concludes experience of something, isn't it? But the self is self-knowing, self-illuminating, self-existing. So there is no frame of reference with regards to the Mukhyatma. This Atma, which is of the nature of witness, is not separate from oneself. It is not in competition with anything else. It is all by itself with no separateness, either in appearance or in experience. Now you start thinking, how can I live a life with no likes and dislikes? How can I live accepting everything, rejecting nothing and retaining nothing? We keep giving you this example, no? This statement, like the mirror, you accept everything. Can the waters reject any wave? Can they? Can't. Can the water say, I love this wave, I'm going to keep it as an impression that this was a wonderful, sweet wave? Can waters have any like or dislike towards any wave? Cannot. Or gold can have like and dislike because, oh, I like the necklace because I go around the neck. I don't like being the toe ring because I have to I get scratched on the ground. The gold doesn't say that, isn't it? Everything is included within the gold, whatever form, whatever name. Similarly, in this Mukhyatma also, everything. What is that everything? The entire creation. What is that entire creation? Waking world, dream world and deep sleep world. Everything that is manifest and everything that is unmanifest is included in the Mukhyatma. Without Mukhyatma, the waking, dream and deep sleep cannot express. Manifestation and manifestation cannot happen without the Mukhyatma. Dead man does not have a dream. Dead man does not have a waking experience. Dead man does not have a deep sleep experience. How do you know, sir? You die and find out. Die and find out. You can. You can. I'm not joking. You can die and find out. Lot of masters have done that. Raman Maharishi, when he was 14 years old, he saw a dead body going by out of his room window. Looking at it, he said, what does it mean to be dead? And he lied down in his bed playing dead. At that moment, he had an out-of-body experience. And that triggered an inquiry in him. If I am and he could see his body lying in the bed. Then the question he came up that struck him was, then who am I really if I am not the body? And that 14-year-old boy, the intensity of the inquiry was so much, it grabbed his imagination that within few months he left the home and went and lived in the cave in the Arunachala and got realized. See. That is. So it is possible. But one must have the courage to go through that. It's not just reading stories. You have to experiment with yourself. Experiment with yourself to find out who you really are. Scriptures are helpful, but till you don't make it your own, merely reading and collecting information will not bring about any lasting change. We'll just conclude this and then we'll stop. It is all by itself with no separateness, neither in appearance or in experience. Is the I in me? What do I call myself? I. What do you call yourself? I. What do you call yourself? I. Is this I different? Then what is different? The body is different. The frequency of breath is different. The emotions are different. The convictions are different. Isn't it? The subconscious impressions are different. But the I which is expressing through everyone is one and the same. How can you say that? Oh, the light expressing through every bulb, electricity is the Paramatma, and the light is the life, is the I. I expressing through all the bulbs, is it the same or different? Is the same. Bulbs are different. The filaments are different, which is the brain or the mind. But the expression, if this light, the light principle in every one of them is the same. For electricity, if 1 or 10 lights fuse, nothing happens to electricity, it continues to be the same, isn't it? Exactly the same. If, because water is expressing through all the waves, if 10 waves, 100 waves, 1000 waves die, the water doesn't feel the loss. And if 1000, 2000, 100,000 waves are being born, water doesn't feel, oh my God, I've become less because waves have been born out of me. He doesn't feel the exhilaration or the loss of birth and death of waves. Exactly the same way. Come to the right cognition. This Mukhyatma is that I, and this I is not one per person. I is the one which is expressing through all. Just like Mithyatma is one expressing through all the Gaunatmas within you. Mithyatma is the one which is identified with the gross body, etc., etc., etc. Isn't it? So come to the right cognition, come to the right definition of yourself first. That it's, if you just convince your mind through repeatedly brooding over it, that if I am the one who is expressing through all, how is it possible? But I feel there is difference, but let me not think about the differences. If scriptures are saying that I am essentially the Mukhyatma, and sometimes when I feel that, hey, yes, all this body breath, that is my default settings which make me behave in this way, which made me express in this way. Certain mannerisms express out of me out of this this identification in a particular way. But I am essentially the Atma, and I am expressing through. I am the one who is everything, and we keep thinking about it without coming to a conclusion, because for Mukhyatma there is no conclusion. For Mithyatma there can be a conclusion. What is the conclusion in Mithyatma? You are the witness, and the 5 koshas are the 5 sheets are the witnessed. In Gaunatma, you are the Mithyatma, you are the self, and you need something else in order to have the what do you call it, to define yourself in a particular role. So this way, come to the true conclusion about yourself as to what is this Mukhyatma. Not like the student quoted that the father is the Mukhyatma, then son becomes the Mukhyatma. Don't get into that track and wrong understanding about your essential nature. Not just in the class, in your daily life also. With reference to the body, the inquiry will show that I is separate from the body, because the body is the object of knowledge. It is subject to modifications and death. In the case of the real Atma, such separateness is inconceivable. The son who is Gaunatma, the body or the 5 koshas which is Mithyatma, all are supported by the real Atma called the Mukhyatma. It is dearer than the dearest, therefore this is the real meaning of the Atma. So a simple inquiry for a knower, to know something there must be a knower. We interact with the whole world in that manner. You are the known, I am the knower, right? When we come to the body, am I the knower of my body? Yes, I know my body. Then how can you be the body? The knower has to be other than the known. Are you knowing that you are breathing? Yes, I know that I am breathing. Then the knower of the breathing mechanism must be different than the known, the breathing. Do you know your emotions? Yes, I know my emotions. Then the knower of the emotions has to be separate to the emotions. Do you know your decisions and convictions that you have? Yes, I know. I am absolutely convinced that I know. Who knows? You must be necessarily separate than the convictions that the mind has. So come to the correct definition of yourself. Come to the correct conclusion of yourself. Don't live. This is a path not for everyone. You try to tell all this to someone else, they will take you to be mad. This is to be practiced in your own mind, in your own life, preferably not sharing it with anyone. Why? If some like-minded people are there, good. But one must not get influenced by, because you are trying to redefine yourself to yourself. Just like a small plant is planted, initially you give it a lot of security. You build a fence around or you put a stick to it so that it can grow and get its roots deep. Once it is deep, then it does not need a support. It does not need a covering. Similarly, when you are redefining yourself to yourself and you are not convinced yet, till then do not share, do not get into the wrong company, do not get, just because you have got a itch, this newfound knowledge which you have just collected information, you don't start discussing with everyone. Very quickly you will be thrown off the track. Very quickly. First get established. You cannot get established in it by merely discussion. The more you think about who you essentially are, to that extent, the intensity, the faith, the devotion, the acceptance, the roots will start growing. The roots will start growing. Just like a seed, when it can remain dry for many, many years, eons, but the moment it gets sunlight and water, it starts germinating. So this thought, the more you keep thinking about yourself, you are providing the sunlight, that is the attention, and you are providing it the nourishment, that is also the attention. That is the love and faith. Then this thought that I am essentially the Mukhyatma. Who am I? Who is this Mukhyatma? How can it be? It has to reveal itself. Slowly, slowly that conviction takes root. It starts germinating within your intellect. And once you are convinced about yourself, you may not have realized, but you have become convinced of yourself. Now you can go and experiment how much you are convinced about the world. You will very quickly find out how much you are. And then when you are not able to express it to others, when you are not able to share it with others, you are not able to bring forth your point of view to others, you feel frustrated. And that frustration, don't take it negatively. It means I need to be more established. Why? If I am not able to express it clearly, then there is something lacking. Then you will prepare more, then you will understand yourself more, you will go deeper into yourself more. Then again because nature of life is such that you will somewhere, somehow, you will start sharing it, and still you are not able to convince or bring forth your point. Why? You are not able to do it till it clicks. This knowledge is self-knowing. The best way it can be explained is the way the scriptures are doing. No individual can ever do justice to that knowledge. And scriptures are not individuals' creation. Scriptures are revealed scriptures. Panchadashi is a scripture, a question-answer series by a realized master, Vidyaranya Swami. So, understand in this context the whole thing. So today we saw Gaunatma, Mithyatma and Mukhyatma. Be the Mukhyatma. Be that. Don't become. Be the Mukhyatma. Let that be the background in which you always function. Don't get identified with anything. Immediately, who is disturbed, who is affronted, who is insulted? Gaunatma. It cannot be the Mithyatma. When you come to yourself, It's always, oh, I got this pain here, I am hungry now, I think I am becoming forgetful. Mithyatma. It is Mithyatma because you have identified with the five koshas. So immediately you put where you are going wrong, you can put yourself. So when you have worked these two out, spend some time with the Mukhyatma, contemplating on yourself, by being yourself. And being yourself does not mean thinking of yourself. Being yourself means, in spite of thinking I am, in my presence the thinking is taking place. Coming to this conclusion, because how long can you be without thoughts? How long can you be without thoughts? But when thoughts are coming, can we have a disposition of being the background, of being the presence, of being the illuminator of those thoughts? Because that is the truth. Have that disposition. It comes with practice. Even though it is happening right now, but little bit of conscious practice is required to ascertain our true identity. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om. Just sit quietly for a minute.